Caseus, Jedi Master. Chapter 10. The morning air was thick with fog as Caseus stepped outside. Even holding his hand a foot in front of his face, he could barely make it out. This would be good practice for Liara. Are you ready? From out of the dense fog, a blue plasma blade ignited. Ready! Caseus ignited the shimmering green blade of his weapon and focused on where Liara was. Seeing her blade strike forward, Caseus quickly blocked the attack as the two of them locked into a fierce struggle. With every clash of their blades, Caseus and Liara could briefly make out the face of the other combatant. Suddenly, just as Caseus disengaged, Liara's saber shut off. Caseus was concerned for a moment or two, but realized what she was doing. She was using the dense fog to her advantage. Reaching out, Caseus tried to sense his pupil and ducked just as Liara's blade came towards him. Quickly moving back up, Caseus and Liara again clashed their weapons in a display of the master teaching the student. Just as Caseus parried Liara's blade, Liara remembered the exercises from her book and just barely rolled underneath her master's blade while simultaneously knocking his foot from underneath him. But Caseus was only down for a brief moment before he sent out a blast of force energy that briefly cleared the fog. As he did, he saw Liara leaping up to a taller rock. Thinking quickly, Caseus reached out with the force and loosened the foothold she had as she slipped and fell down, landing harshly on the sand as the wind was knocked out of her. And Caseus stood over her with his blade in front of her, before helping her back to her feet. You all right?
Yeah, I'm okay. I almost had you.
Almost, but not quite. Your master still has a few tricks up his sleeve. Why don't we break for now and take a look at this droid of yours?
Okay.
Liara ran inside as Caseus followed. Removing the junked pit droid from under her bed, Liara brought it to the workbench and set all of its pieces onto the hard surface. Caseus retrieved a box of tools from the maintenance closet and sat at the workbench to examine the droid. It would take a bit of work to get it into functioning order. First, he had to deal with the copious amounts of rust covering the joints and extremities. First, he took a metal scraping tool and rigorously began to chip away at the chunks of rust and grime as Liara watched. Caseus hadn't worked on a droid like this since before the order fell. Since living with Sabo, he'd grown to find a sort of enjoyment in the mundane act of cleaning, cooking, or maintaining pieces of machinery. This little guy's seen better days.
You'll be able to fix him, right?
I can fix him. It'll just take a little elbow grease. Hand me that bottle there. Liara handed Caseus a bottle of clear liquid that he carefully applied to the rusted parts of the droid. Within a few minutes, the liquid began to eat away at the rust, and Caseus wiped off the remaining residue and tightened the joints before standing the pit droid up. All right, looks like the optical lens is cracked, but we can probably find a spare one in the city next time we go. Now I just need to rewire a few of his circuits. Go grab a few power cells. Make sure to grab the small ones. 2 should do it. Liara walked to the supply crates and grabbed 2 small power cells and brought them over to Caseus.
How did you learn all this stuff?
Training as a Jedi requires practical knowledge, just as much as combative knowledge. Ship repair, droid maintenance, all kinds of stuff. If Corbin was here, he could have had this droid in working order in no time. Liara looked at the lightsaber on her belt that once belonged to Corbin. Caseus talked about him a lot.
What was Corbin like?
Caseus stopped working for a moment and smiled. Have you ever met someone you wanted to hang out with, but at the same time you kind of want to punch them? Liara shared a laugh with her master. Corbin was something else. Powerful, no doubt about that. His skills made me look like a child waving a stick when we became friends. He had a lot of confidence, sometimes too much for his own good. I remember one time we got caught trying to sneak extra puff cakes from the temple kitchen when we were kids. I knew we were in trouble, but Corbin was so sure he could talk his way out of it. He was also very, very compassionate. When I was very little, I wasn't exactly a prodigy. My skills were lacking in just about every category. and there were a few other students that picked on me every now and again. But Corbin wouldn't stand for that. Even at a young age, he was driven by a strong moral commitment. He stood up for me, and we became best friends.
You said he died saving you. What happened?
Cassius' nostalgic smile slowly faded into a look of regret. I'll tell you some other time. Hand me the fusion cutter. After about an hour of working on the droid, Cassius finally sealed up the back compartment and carefully looked over the beaten-up droid. He was far from finished, still missing an arm, and there were a few dents and scratches he couldn't get rid of. But for now, if he had done everything right, the droid should function. All right, ready to test it out? Liara smiled eagerly as Cassius reached under the droid's neck and flipped a small switch. Instantly, the droid stood at attention and looked around, making small, squeaky beeps. Liara laughed and got closer.
Hi, I'm Liara.
The droid looked at her and to Cassius.
Welcome to your new home.
The droid looked around and suddenly jumped off the workbench and ran for the door.
Hey, wait!
Running after him, Liara saw the pit droid grab a small rock and throw it at her foot.
Hey, come on!
Squeaking angrily, the droid took a fighting stance, keeping its one arm up and throwing small punches her way. Cassius raised an eyebrow and walked over, sighing, picking up the droid and hitting the nose, causing it to shut off and collapse into a disc.
He seems kinda crazy.
Probably just a bug in his circuits. I'll take a look at it again later. Cassius and Liara would continue with their exercises, primarily saber throws. And soon, night fell, and Cassius was cleaning up after their dinner.
I'm going to turn in early, Master. Is that okay?
Absolutely. We'll see you in the morning. Liara went inside as Cassius looked into the fire. As he did, he thought he saw something out of the corner of his eye. Looking up, he saw nothing, and slowly looked back into the flames. He had the strangest feeling that they were being watched. But that was impossible, he thought. No one knew who they were, or where they were. Meanwhile, the Slave One approached Chandrila and set down just outside the city. Stepping off the ship, clad in Mandalorian armor, Boba emerged and walked towards the shop owner, who had sold Liara the droid.
How's the hunt been treating you? The pay's been too little for too much lately. Dengar said you know something about a Jedi. Yeah, I believe I saw a girl with a laser sword come by my stand yesterday. How old? No older than 15, I'd say. Couldn't be a purge survivor then. Which leads me to believe she has a master. So, 2 Jedi. And you're sure they haven't left Chandrila? A few of the other shop owners have reported various sightings in the past. I have no doubt they're hiding here. The question is where. The where and why is for you to find out. The real question is, do you think the 2 of you have what it takes to bring them in?
Boba stepped forward and stared directly at him.
Do you know who my father was?
Jango Fett, of course, but you aren't your father. Boba swiftly grabbed the man by his shirt collar and yanked him a few inches from his visor.
You're right. I'm far more ruthless and cunning than he was. These Jedi won't be a problem. I guarantee it.